Movie review sesh.
I got a message for you from your father.
So the first movie that I'm bringing you is... Oh, let me take that back.
You're good. Take your time, mate. It's been a while.
Come on. Hot, sicker than your average. Pop a twist, cabbage off instinct.
Before we start, do you have insurance?
What?
Your coverage good? Like, you have dental?
Yeah, the Roadhouse 2024.
Yes. You watched the original Roadhouse, which I have not seen.
Yes, I watched the original Roadhouse after I saw the new one. Because it was on, and my dad was like, "Oh, you need to watch this. Like, you need to see how good this one is."
Did he watch the new one?
Yeah, and the whole time he was like under his breath, just like, "This movie sucks."
Well, me and your dad are in the same boat. I know you gave it a 3 on Letterboxd,
Yeah.
3 out of 5. I gave it a 1. I was somewhat looking forward to it. I wasn't like necessarily actively anticipating it, but I was looking forward to Connor McGregor's streamatic debut. I'm a big fan of Connor McGregor, big fan of UFC.
And you ring back home, you ring your wife. Baby, we done it. We're rich, baby. Conor McGregor made us rich. Break out the red panties.
Connor, you tweeted out with the video, that jump shot, that your confidence comes from your big ball sack. Can you elaborate on that?
I'm your daddy, eh? Call me Jose Senior. Tell him I'm his daddy. Tell him I said I am his daddy.
I'm gonna give you a chance to apologize. You apologize to me.
These big Irish balls all in your face.
Come on. Hot, sicker than your average. Pop a twist, cabbage off instinct.
I thought when Conor McGregor came into the movie, he gave it a lot of energy because, I mean, I thought he was terrible in it, but I thought he was hilarious. He was like carrying the movie on his back.
Once Knox is on the job, it's over, baby.
The sound mixing was so bafflingly bad to me, and this is not something that I know that everybody notices, but as someone who edits stuff myself, something was just off about it to me. I immediately went and did some research and looked it up, and apparently because of the writers and actors strike, they couldn't bring the actors in to do ADR because a lot of the dialogue just sounds kind of artificial, and they used AI to do a lot of the ADR, which also leads into one of my other problems with the movie was that they just hold on these extreme wide shots, and I think that it was because of the ADR situation, and probably if there were close-ups, you would be able to notice it more.
I'm gonna have to have Sam here hurt you.
Oh, no.
You know, that whole bridge is closed. You can't get to it, but big old tree just kind of pops out of nowhere.
Hey, Charlie. You run this bookstore on your own?
No. I am one of the owners, though. What brings you to Glass Key?
I mean, I enjoyed it more than you did because I was able to turn my brain off and not really notice the things that you mentioned. Also, those aren't typically things that I notice.
For scenes that are already kind of written unengaging, when you don't have cuts to give it that rhythm and pace, it was stuck out like a sore thumb to me.
But yeah, I don't know if this is true, but I heard that Jake Gyllenhaal really fought for this role and was passionate about it before the movie.
Oh, okay.
Because he really wanted his take on, like, Dalton. After seeing the original, apparently the original was, like, a favorite film of his. And so...
What?
But you wouldn't know that.
I don't think that passion shines through in his performance. That might be the writing and direction. I did like the angle of the UFC backstory.
In the original, you never get flashbacks.
Oh.
You just kind of learn about what happened in the past, in the present, through dialogue.
And they did actually, fun fact, they actually did go to a UFC event where they filmed the stuff, and I guess because of obviously it was at an actual UFC event, they only have limited time for what they can shoot. There was one thing I wanted to mention, though, Connor McGregor wise.
Hey, I got a message for you from your father.
Guy comes up to him, main villain guy. He's eating his sandwich, and he goes, I got a message for you. He turns around, and then he looks back, and he's from your father. And I think that he forgot the next part of his line. As he was turning around, he's like, oh shit, my line.
From your father.
I don't know, it was like obvious, the staging of that scene. And it was hilarious.
What is this message?
If you have spare time and you're looking for something mindless that's, to me, just adequately entertaining, it doesn't really push any boundaries.
They're making a sequel.
I saw that.
The most watched Amazon Prime movie, I think. Which I was also curious about why it wasn't released in theaters. Roadhouse remake, obviously. I think all the dads would have gone to see it. But then as soon as I started seeing the technical errors, I was like, oh, this is why.
Well, the director was really upset about that. He claimed that he made the movie for the big screen.
Which it was directed by Doug Liman, who did Edge of Tomorrow, which I've never seen, but I've heard is a great action movie.
Great.
Which I also thought that the action in this was kind of underwhelming and uninspired. It has a style, but I didn't like the style.
I didn't think it was anything unique or mind-blowing, but, you get to see Jake Gyllenhaal beat up some people, and that's always a plus in my book.
You know what? I would recommend this movie solely for Conor McGregor's performance, and if you want to take like a look at how technically wrong your movie can go. If you're interested in that sort of thing. But otherwise, I wouldn't recommend it. Just go watch the Conor McGregor scenes on YouTube.
All right, let's see what this is about. Where the fuck is everyone?
And watch the original Roadhouse.
I need to do that as well. I have not seen it.
In anticipation for this Roadhouse 2024 sequel.
Oh yeah, no, I will be watching that thing as soon as it drops on streaming. Because there was the post-credit scene where Conor McGregor survived.
Yeah, that's another thing. The fact that it just went straight to streaming makes it really easily accessible.
Oh yeah, if it was out in the theaters and we were reviewing this when it came out, I would not say go see it in the theater.
Yeah, I wouldn't say go see it in the theaters. I don't even know if I would have gone out to the theaters. But since it was available on Prime and I could watch it in the comfort of my home, like with my family, why not? Based on what we just talked about in Roadhouse, kind of cheesy and corny, a movie that really plays into it and doesn't take itself, or at least in my interpretation, doesn't take itself too seriously. The Beekeeper with Jason Statham, directed by David Ayer, who directed...
Oh, I didn't know he directed that movie.
Yeah.
My dad told me he watched that movie on the plane, and he said it was badass.
Everyone, need your attention, please. I'm gonna burn this place to the ground.
Is it as violent as John Wick? Is it R or PG-13?
It's R.
It's R? Okay.
Pretty sure it's R.
Is it nice and violent like John Wick?
Yeah, there's a point where he cuts off this guy's fingers.
My fingers? On my right hand? He cut them off.
And then ties his hands up and then sticks a hook into him that's from the back of a truck, and then revs the truck and puts a brick on the pedal so that it goes off a bridge, and the chain grabs him and he flies and then lands in the ocean.
This is much more elaborate than what John Wick would do. John Wick would just murk a guy with a book.
Yeah, no, it's very silly, very action heavy. But Jason,
think it's corny?
I think it's corny. I mean, because there's
intentionally corny.
I'll tell you this line, and you let me know: to be or not to be. I choose to be
or not to be.
It's like,
yeah,
that line's in there.
Yeah.
A Shakespeare B
intentionally corny. I think that's something that movies need to do. They need to bring the intentional corniness back.
I mean, there's like this secret organization of beekeepers, which is their name, where they're like trained. They're not all beekeepers.
Are they like Black Widows?
Kind of.
Okay. That's the impression I'm getting.
There's nothing to do with bees at all, but he's a retired beekeeper, and then he decides to actually become a beekeeper as his cover.
Oh.
Like, there's no reason for bees to be like related to any of it all, but then he decides after he retires from the agency to be like, you know, I'm actually gonna do what my title is, and I'm gonna go be a beekeeper on some lady's farm. And
how's Jason Statham in it?
Stoic as usual, just
same performance as the Meg.
As the Meg, yeah, just this badass loner that nobody really likes, but
same as Wrath of Man.
As Wrath of Man.
I did not like Wrath of Man.
I did not like that movie either.
I like Guy Ritchie's style, but that movie he got too far up his own ass. But I did not know David Ayer directed it.
Yeah, it's the director of Suicide Squad, the original,
End of Watch,
and Bright as well.
He did Bright.
I think so.
Oh no, I'm thinking of Brightburn. Which one is what movie?
It's
is Bright?
Will Smith and Joel Edgerton, and Will Smith is a cop and Joel Edgerton is an orc. It was a Netflix original.
Yeah. I heard that movie was shit.
Yeah, I heard it was really bad.
Yes.
But would you recommend The Beekeeper?
I would. It's more fun than Roadhouse.
Okay.
Because I
watched Roadhouse, I might as well watch Beekeeper.
Yeah, and it's fun action, more creative action. What else do you need? And then it's got Josh Hutcherson from like the Hunger Games.
Hunger Games boy.
And he plays like a total douchebag.
Fuck you.
Hunger Games boy?
Yeah.
I told you my name. It's fuck you, Mr. Fuck you, and you better fucking remember it.
But yeah, it's fun, and then it sets itself up for a sequel. So
did it make any money?
I think.
Well, then it might get a sequel.
Yeah, and there's like one uninteresting kind of plot line that goes through it, but it doesn't really take away too much from the rest of the movie.
But you mentioned movies that made their money back at the box office, which can segue into my next film. I saw Longlegs.
Don't move.
Is it scary being an FBI agent?
The letter was left with the bodies.
We follow an FBI agent who uncovers a series of occult clues that she must solve to end a killing spree. I loved this movie. As far as horror goes now, because there's a lot of horror movies that come out that do not give Sam his horror fix. Nicolas Cage is unrecognizable as Longlegs, the serial killer. They show the serial killer numerous times throughout the movie, and about halfway through I was like, where's Nicolas Cage at? And I didn't even realize that I was watching Nicolas Cage the whole time. He completely disappears into the role. And then the lead actress, Micah Monroe, I've never seen her in anything else. Have you?
I believe she's in It Follows.
I have that
but
on
I have not
DVD,
seen it.
but I haven't seen it. She was really great, really compelling lead performance. Her character doesn't make eye contact hardly ever with anyone, so she's kind of very just distant from her FBI partners, and she has an estranged relationship with her mom, and that becomes a revelation later that ties in with the serial killer. I just wanted to interject something I forgot to mention in our discussion, but I thought it was an interesting choice Oz Perkins made in this scene to never see either of these characters in the same shot as a way to visually represent how disconnected they are.
Do you still say your prayers? No, Mom. I never said my prayers, never once. They scared me.
But directed by Oz Perkins, who I've not watched either of his other movies, Gretel and Hansel and The Black Coat's Daughter, but great just horror atmosphere. I went in, I saw the trailer. It has a great trailer. The trailer does not give anything about the plot away, and it turned out to be more of a Zodiac 7, the Batman kind of procedural serial killer drama. And then when the horror kicks in, it feels very earned. There's not a lot of cheap jump scares. There are a few here and there, but they're used very sparsely and effectively. It also has a style I really liked. I know I've mentioned it. I think I've mentioned it in our Killers of the Flower Moon video that I really like when the aspect ratios change. But yeah, just those little like stylistic things I like. This jumps back and forth in flashbacks and modern day from regular, 16:9 aspect ratio to Super 8 film. They didn't shoot it in Super 8, which I thought was obvious and was a kind of a complaint I had, was I would have, like in Killers of the Flower Moon, when you see the Super 8 footage, that's actual stuff that Scorsese shot on a Super 8 camera. But this was obviously shot 16:9 aspect ratio that they then, in editing and post-production, made into. It does have some unique transitions as we go from Super 8, and then the aspect ratio will slowly get larger, taking us back into modern day. Everything, even the close-up shots of the actors, was all wide-angle lenses, so gave you a lot to look at in the frame, which I really appreciated. I think that's a good technique to use in a horror movie, because in horror movies you're always looking at, edges of the frame to see if something's gonna pop out of the corner.
Yeah, I mean, you've piqued my interest. I'm not really a big horror fan.
That is a cunt move.
I do love crime procedurals.
That's honestly more so what it is than a horror movie. The horror comes from, there's like satanic occult stuff going on, but it's nothing supernatural. It's more of a procedural, much like Silence of the Lambs, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so yeah, I'll have to check it out. Yeah, would you tell everybody to go out to the theaters?
I would. Like we mentioned, I didn't get to my original box office point, but I think it crossed 22, somewhere between 22 and 30 million this past weekend. It only had a $10 million budget, which, like with horror movies, just comparatively speaking to almost every other genre, horror movies are very cheap to make. So it had a $10 million budget, made its budget back on Thursday night. So it's definitely one that I would want to see in a theater.